Underdog. Damn. Unleash the power.
Jayson Waller here, True Underdog Podcast. Super excited about my guest today. He shows a real story of a true underdog. Been to a bad side, had some bad times, and overcame that. I've got Freeway Ricky Ross here, the real Rick Ross, prison reform and activist and actor, former convicted drug trafficker, cannabis dealer and entrepreneur, podcaster, author, and a philanthropist. How you doing, Ricky?
I'm good.
I
need to have you announce me every. I need to have you to announce me every time.
That's right.
How much you charge for that?
That's free, baby. That's free. I'm trying to pull Michael Buffer off. Ricky Ross. So, listen, you have got a very unique, inspiring story that went real dark, was dark for a hot while, and then you came out of that okay. You were born in Texas. You started dealing drugs at a really young age, and I want to jump right in. I mean, you've had a lot of things going on.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
So you're from Texas. You moved to LA fairly early with your mom. Walk us through your childhood and get the listeners acquainted with the early days of Ricky Ross growing up in South Central with your single mom.
Well, I was a normal kid, like everybody else. Just wanted to have fun, stay with my mom as much as I could, eat as much candy as I could get my hands on. So I was really a normal kid. There were a few things that wasn't absolutely normal with us as a family, but for the most part, we were pretty normal. Beside when I was what was I, about 4 years old, and my mom killed my uncle. Domestic violence. My uncle come in drunk one day, and he waging a knife and whatnot, and I was standing right on the side of my mom when she did it. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
When she shot him, so and that was kind of traumatizing. Losing my mom, went to jail for a little while.
You were 4 when that happened?
Yeah, maybe 4, maybe 5.
Okay.
Maybe going on 5-ish, something like that there. I remember to watch riots. I was old enough to remember to watch riots. I've had a pretty interesting life, and growing up in Texas, in the 60s, the early 60s, I saw black and white bathrooms. I've been told, you can't use that bathroom. I remember to watch riots here in L.A. When I got about 12, I started playing tennis. Wanted to be a tennis star. One time I wanted to be a firefighter, a cop, maybe an airplane pilot. Normal life. The problem is that I never learned how to read, and I got pretty good in tennis, and good enough to go to college and play on the college level. But when they found out I couldn't read, that door was closed on me. So I found myself back in my neighborhood where I grew up at, South Central L.A., and I started hanging out with my old friends that I went to elementary school and junior high school with. And next thing you know, I was selling drugs.
So, at 12, you start playing tennis. You get really good. You get a scholarship offer. You can't read or write. You're struggling with that. You go back and hang, with the crew that you went to school with, and you start selling drugs. How old do you think you are then? 17, 18, 19 years old?
19.
When your mom went to prison, who helped raise you then? What was that like?
Well, she didn't stay in long. I don't remember exactly. Maybe a few months. But to a 5-year-old, your mom's gone even for one day.
It's a big deal.
It's pretty dramatizing when you've never been without this person. In your life. Your total life you've been with this person. So I don't know exactly how long she stayed in. Imagine a few weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2. Okay. But I do remember living with family members who were really strangers to me, because we lived in Texas and now we're in California. I didn't really know them. It's like I just met these people.
Yeah.
So it was pretty dramatizing. And you know, and when I look back at my life, I was like, wow, that's just the time that a kid's supposed to be reading and writing, you know, and now you're dealing with being in a big, strange city, you know, literally by yourself. You know, it's pretty.
Do you think, and where you lived in South Central, the schools just, you were passing grades but never learned to read, right? They were just, you didn't care. They were just, it's fine, right? That's kind of I believe, especially back in the day in inner cities, even now, we have a lot of those struggles with schools where they just, that's okay, let's just pass them. And they're not really teaching. You agree? Because there's a big gap there that you were passing grades, but you didn't learn anything.
Right. Well, you know, I look at it a lot of times. The teachers they don't want to necessarily hold you back. You know, or you know, you holding a kid back could almost in the sign of the kid being a thing that he's not succeeding in life. He's not moving forward.
He'd be a quitter and go do something worse, right?
Exactly. So you know, the teachers have a lot that they're dealing with when they doing that. So they have to make that decision. Right. You know, should I pass him? Should I hold him back? You know, which one is going to do the best for him? You know, all of his friends will know that he failed, and he's not making it, and he's a dummy. You know, I noticed when I was in school, every time a teacher would call me up to read, I'd rather get squats. You know, I'd do something stupid in class and get a squat, go to the principal office, rather than to let the whole school know that I couldn't read or write.
That makes sense. Well, let's jump back into you start selling drugs with your friends at 19. You know, where did you learn? Because just going to sell drugs, it's still hard. You got to get into something that can be scary. You're still a young man. South Central LA is not an easy spot to grow up in. Lots of gangs, drugs, a lot of stuff going on, especially in the 70s and 80s and 90s, even some now today. And, you know, when you're transitioning to do that, how did you learn a street hustle? How were you able to maximize that? And I don't want the listeners to think that we're condoning to go out and sell drugs, right? But my point is during that hardship and during the lifestyle that you had where you were held back because of reading and writing issues and where you lived and the environment, you were trying to find a way to survive and better yourself. You were almost motivated to take it to the next level.
Absolutely.
And you use that as motivation. What did you do to kind of learn that sales skill of shit? I've got to be able to scale. I've got to be able to do big time because I'm sick of being behind. I'm sick of being, you know, put in the corner because I can't read, I can't write, and I feel like I'm not shit. How do I get to the next level? What did you do?
Well, you know, in what I found in life is that we can take certain skills and transfer them to other ventures. Yeah. And what I was able to do is I was able to take my inefficiencies from tennis and make them become sufficiencies in the cocaine business. And that's pretty much what I did. You know, from tennis I learned that repetition. You know, if you do it over and over again, you improve. Yep. I also took tennis lessons. So when I first started taking tennis lessons, I learned from some friends who were already taking lessons before I could afford it. And what I would do is I would copy them, kind of like what I did in school. You know, in school I would copy other people's paper when I really needed to pass a test. Yeah. The teacher would be like, well, you better pass this test here. Yeah. And I'd be like, okay, I know who paper to copy. Yeah. So I had been doing the same thing in tennis. And then when I started taking lessons, the coach had told me, he said, man, you've been copying that guy so good that you do all the stuff he do wrong. You do it wrong too. So from that I learned is that copy people, but don't do the things that they do wrong. If you see something that they're doing wrong, don't do that. And so when I started selling drugs, I look for the things that they were doing right as well as the things that they were doing wrong.
Well, and I want the listeners to know that don't know your story. It's not like you just sold a little bit of cocaine. You know, there were days you made $3 million in a day selling coke. You were a kingpin. You were one of the largest drug dealers probably at the time in the world, at least in L.A. and in California, right?
Well, LA Times said that I'm the first crack millionaire. That's what they credit me with. I don't know
I
if I
mean,
was.
they got a rapper named after you. They made music after
No,
the money
like
that you made out in the streets.
it's like 4 rappers that use my name.
That's right.
I'm probably the most talked about guy in hip hop. There's quite a few things that records that I probably hold that nobody really pays attention to right now. One day they will, when the aneurysms, I'm learning about this internet stuff. When they catch up, people are going to be shocked.
Yeah, I would agree. I look. I want listeners to know, and I say this. We mentioned before the show started. I got a chance to meet Rick Wershey Jr. We ended up being really good friends. He's here in Detroit. It's White Boy Rick. His story's not on the level of your story by no means. They made a movie about him.
In its own right, I mean, the kid was selling drugs at 17, and from what I hear, he put together a pretty nice organization.
He was making like $800,000 a month, but he was a kid. He was 17, and he was pushing that weight, and the media made him bigger than he was. And then because he ratted on cops and stuff, he got buried under the prison, like buried, like no parole. You know how that goes. So, and they recruited him to work for him first. My point to this is, and I'm never telling anybody to go out and do bad things or drugs, but you had a bad upbringing. Like all of us have our own shit, right? I had my own shit. You had your own shit. Everybody's shit's different, harder, not as hard, but we all have our own problems that affect who we are. And I always tell people, look, I don't regret anything. All the bad and the good has defined who I am. All the bad and good with you as a kid made you get those experiences to really become the first, millionaire crack dealer. But you were doing really well in life, and then you go to prison. You were a kid. You couldn't read or write. I mean, you were a young adult. You couldn't read or write. You didn't have a shot. You're looking for survival. I think that people don't understand that they think drug dealers are just out to ruin the world and lace their pockets.
No,
it's
they got
about
it.
Survival. It's about, I didn't have shit. I didn't grow up with shit. How do I get that? This is an easy way. It's the naive of being green and not knowing, right?
And it's not really easy.
I don't mean easy. I mean, let me rephrase if not easy. This is a way that I can be successful because I don't have the other tools that some other people have.
Absolutely. Let me tell you something about cocaine.
Okay.
Dealing drugs. Dealing drugs is one of the toughest businesses you can get into for people who don't know. It's a tough business. When you have to live with the fact every single day, you live with this fact every day that I'm getting finna tell you right now. It's a fact that you could go to jail any day.
Yeah.
Every morning that you wake up could be the day that you go to jail. It also could be the day that you have to kill somebody. It also could be the day that somebody kills you. So when you're living under those type of strains, it's not an easy business. When I go and talk to the kids, I tell them, I said, if you tell Bill Gates, because I remember when they were taking him to court for the antitrust, and if the courts would have ordered him to break down his company or to close his company down, he would have did it.
Yeah.
Instead of going to prison. But guys who sell drugs, they sell drugs under the intention that they could go to prison every single day, but they still do it. So when you're dealing under those type of strains, it makes it a really tough business by all means of the imagination. And then you don't know the guy that you're selling the drugs to could be the guy that's going to rob you that day or kill you that day, or the guy that you're buying the drugs from. Because you don't know what happened with neither one of their state of mind, what happened in their lives. So it's not an easy business. When I hear people say that, I'll be like, oh my goodness, you just don't know what you're talking about. An easy business. This is one of the toughest business it is. And that's why I feel that I'm going to do so well in legitimate business, because I have a tolerance for pain that most people don't have. I used to take that $3 million and put it on the line every single day. Every day that I woke up, I would put my money on the line because, like I said, we're dealing with all of those restraints. You don't know if the police is going to come in, and if they come in, they're going to take all your money.
Well, you dealt with life or death or prison for life every single day.
Every day.
So your hardship, your skin, your shoulders are heavy. They can handle rejection. They can handle failure. It's like, fuck, I don't make money this week at a legitimate business. I'm okay with it. I'm not dead. I'm not in prison. Like,
I didn't have to kill nobody.
Right.
I didn't have to kill nobody.
That's right. You didn't have to do any of that shit. So you have that strength and ability that they don't teach in school.
No.
That it's life lessons that make you and defy you of who you want to be and who you can be in life. And I see that I'm reading here that, you invested in Anita Baker's first album, and you even met with, you missed the opportunity to be king of hip hop, and you met with a young Dr. Dre. Talk about that experience, right? I'm a big Dre fan. Talk about that.
Well, I was about 23-ish. When yeah, maybe about 23 when I met Dr. Dre. Back then, I didn't even remember. But when I went to his house when I got out of prison, he reminded me of this day. DJ Pooh was a friend of one of my little cousins, and he would be spending the night at the house and stuff. And he used to always tell me, "Man, you ought to do my album. You ought to do my album. Give me the money to do my album." He was a 17-year-old kid,
yeah.
And so he takes me to this house one day, and it's where all the rappers in LA are staying. All the rappers in LA. This is before they had all become multimillionaires and stuff, and they're staying in this little one-bedroom apartment, and people were sleeping all over the floor.
Is this during the NWA days, or?
No, this is before NWA.
Before that. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, this is before NWA. I think NWA didn't come out until like 87. This is probably like 82-ish.
Okay. Maybe
83, something like that. I'm not quite sure. So he takes me over to this house, and in that house, Dr. Dre was in that house. So I was contemplating, was I going to do a rap record? And I'm also hanging out with Otis Smith. I don't know, you probably don't know who Otis Smith is, but he's one of the first black independent record companies. He found Rick James, Bobby Womack, Johnny Taylor. He also was the vice president of Motown. And so he used to pay me to play tennis with his son. And when I came up, when I was a man, I go to a tennis tournament one day, and his son is playing, and they have a little altercation. It's in my book, too. They can read it. You can read it. You can go in more details in the book. So if you haven't read the book, you should check out my book. My book is a great book.
What's the book called? Let's share it on there. What's the book called?
Freeway Ricky Ross, The Untold Autobiography. I'll get a copy of it in a second when somebody.
You got to send me a copy and sign it, because anybody I have on my podcast that's got some real hardcore shit to talk about.
I'll do that. I'll send you a copy.
Absolutely.
I'll send you a copy. Send you a copy.
You got to sign that bad boy. So you see Otis and you got Dre there. Go ahead. So
now I'm contemplating, should I do DJ Pooh album, or should I go with Otis Smith, who has all of these gold and platinum albums on the wall? Because I really should have been the king of hip hop. I could have easily been, I was that close, because I was ready to give DJ Pooh that money to do that album. And had I given him that money, Dre would have produced it, and everybody, and I probably would have been more in tune. And then what was so cold is that I had Otis Smith, who were already distributing records independently. So now Otis is asking me to help him with who later became Anita Baker. She was in Chapter 8, the group Chapter 8. He had Chapter 8 signed, and Chapter 8 kicked her out of the group. And so he tells me, he said, "Man, I got this girl, she sings like a mockingbird. You ought to go in with me and let's put her out." And so now I had the thing, so DJ Pooh asked me for $200,000. So here he is, a 17-year-old kid, he's asking for $200,000, and then I got Otis Smith, who knew Berry Gordy, Dick Griffey, all the top music people in the industry. Patrick Moulton, who Patrick Moulton is the guy who produced Anita's first record and sung all the background and everything on it. So he's introducing me to all these people. So now I'm like, should I do the 17-year-old kid who wants $200,000, or should I do the old man who has platinum records, office in Beverly Hills, or the kids who's living in a one-bedroom apartment building in Torrance?
Yeah.
I think I'm going with the old man. So I gave the old man the 600,000, and I didn't do DJ Pooh's album, which probably was one of the biggest mistakes I made in life. And that's how it all went down, you know. So when I get out of prison,
house. Yeah, go ahead. You went to Dre's
so
house.
when I go to Dre's house when I get out of prison, and Dre was like, "Man, Rick, you don't remember me?" And I was like, "Nah." He's like, "Man, I was in that house that day you came over with DJ Pooh," and I was like, "What the fuck?"
Oh,
I was like, "What? Dr. Dre was in that house, man? Wow!" But you know, even DJ Pooh came up to be, you know, a hell of a guy in the entertainment industry. You know, he wrote the first Grand Theft Auto, and you know that's my character in there too. He used my character, Smokey, Big Smokey. He also did Color Me Bad. He did L Cool J. I mean, you know, he's had a great career in the industry as well. I think he did Today Was a Good Day for Ice Cube. So he had a great career in the music industry as well. And I, you know, just to think that I was right there and that I didn't capitalize on it. But it was hard, you know, to say, you know, I just spent $600,000, which I thought the 600 I spent was the best way to go with it. And it probably was had I got out of the drug business.
right.
You know, if I would have got out of the drug business, it probably would have been great because I probably could have held on to Anita Baker when him and Anita started to fight. I probably could have, you know, pulled a relationship back together. But anyway,
Well,
that's how that went down.
So, you know, missed opportunity, and we all kind of go through that. You know, listeners and viewers out there, when you see a chance, I always say scared money can't make money, right? And you were like, hey, let me bet on this guy. And look, sometimes you lose, but it's about what you learn from the loss and go forward. When you went to prison, two things. One, how many years did you spend in prison? And two, what did it teach you or what did you learn to make a difference when you came out?
I did 2 bids of 20 years. What did I learn? Oh my goodness. For the first time in my life, I had a chance to be by myself. It gave me a chance to do some soul searching because what I thought about myself was not what it was. You know, I thought that drugs was like my salvation.
Right.
You know, was like, what am I going to do without drugs? You know, like almost like a dope fiend, you know, like I got to have it. I need it. I want it. Don't take it away from me, you know. So when I was there, it made me soul searching. Was like, well, Rick, technically you never failed in life. You've gotten everything in life that you ever wanted. Because unconsciously what I found out is that I wanted to go to prison. You know, I would be laying up with my girlfriend and I would be like, when I go to prison, you're going to come see me? And I'd never been in a police car.
You accepted that reality because you always thought about it, right?
What I found out is that we can wield ourselves into what it is that we want. Like right now, I literally write a script of my life. You know, this is what you're going to be like. But I got to show you this article they did. This is the book here.
Yep, that's a good book.
It's right here, LA Magazine. You can't see it, but it says, the crack king is back.
Oh, I see that. Yeah.
Look at this article. They did a beautiful article on me.
Oh, yeah.
And this guy here, Jesse Katz, he had been following me before I knew him. I'm just going to read a little bit of it for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just to give you a quick. LA's most famous dope man was doing life. I was writing his obituary. It was a bright January morning in 1998, early into Rick Ross's sentence. When he's writing my obituary, I'm telling him all the things that I'll be doing when I get out of prison. If you read that article, you would think that the things I am doing right now was exactly what I talked about in prison. So, you know, I talked about...
to believe it so you can enable it, right? I've got a therapist that always tells me, you know, people that commit suicide, they talk about it, they research it, they talk about it, they research it, it becomes reality, they do it. You, fearful of going to jail, but then you started to accept it, you started to think about it, you already envisioned it, saying you wanted to go. You're in jail, tell me if I'm wrong, or prison, and now you're talking about all the things you want to do when you get out, so when you get out, it becomes reality. Am I right?
That's right. You know, in that article, I tell him, I said, I'll be telling the politicians what to do. I put up a picture when Biden and Kamala Harris won. I put up a picture that I took with Kamala Harris when she was on her campaign running for president, and everybody went crazy, but they didn't understand that this was what I had envisioned for myself. And I didn't even know how it was going to come about. Like right now, you know, I helped draft a law here in LA for cannabis.
Yep.
I went downtown and I helped them because they wasn't going to let convicted felons get marijuana licenses. And I said, well, why not? Why shouldn't they? You got guys who sold cannabis when it was illegal, but they didn't get caught.
That's right.
So now here a guy is who paid his dues. He paid his dues. Everything that the court told him to do, he did it.
Yep.
Now he's off parole. Now you're going to tell him that that is going to penalize him from doing something that he had been doing, that sent him to prison, that now you're saying is not even wrong anymore. So he can't get into the game. And, you know, they bowed down and they say, oh, we're going to let convicted felons in as long as their conviction is over 10 years. So I just made it, just in time. You know, I'm going on 12 years right now. I've been out.
Damn, that's congrats to you. I see you're involved in the cannabis industry. You're officially a legitimate drug kingpin, right? So, bam.
Yes.
Who would have thought you could claim that title? Because you recently launched Freeway with the cannabis heavyweights, the Cure Company. Share your vision of the industry and what you should expect from your upcoming.
You've been doing your research.
I've
huh?
got a great team. And they put it right in front of me, baby. So
Yeah. The Cure Company, the guy over there, Pat, he's a heavyweight. Their company is probably one of the biggest indoor growers, maybe in the world. Okay. Definitely here in California. So we partnered up to come up with the brand Freeway. And that was his idea. He came up with the brand Freeway. He thought of the name because, you know, I don't really care about names. You know, give me a name, I'll make it great. That's my
right.
saying.
That's right.
So he came up with the name Freeway, and we just partnered up. And right now, you know, I'm in over 15 stores, and looking to be in over 15. My goal is my ultimate goal. I mean, you know, this is once you're comfortable in life, you know, and you have. Like myself, you have everything that you want. Mm-hmm. When you don't need anything in life, you know, you don't need nothing. I don't need no more food. I got plenty of food. I got gas in the car. The house is paid. I'm great.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it for fun.
Yeah. You're enjoying it.
I'm enjoying it. I just enjoy the atmosphere. I like the people in the business. Yeah. And from that, it just gives me excitement and joy and you know, so now I just want to be the best. You know, it's like playing tennis, you know, trying to be number one. Who can hit the most balls?
So you're competitive as hell, right? I'm a sales guy. You're a sales guy. We sold different shit, but I like to win. It's not about the money. It's about being the fucking best, right? It's about being number one. And it sounds like you're not chasing money. You're chasing to be the fucking best. Like, you want to be the biggest and the best. That's what it's about to you, to take that title, right? That's important to you because it's in your DNA to win and succeed, because you were held back as a kid. You were told, no, you can't read or write, you can't do this shit, and you kind of stepped up and you're like, look, I did my dues, I fucked up before, I've owned my shit, give me a shot to go and do something different for me, to add jobs, to help the world, to do whatever. And that's what you're really doing. But you're strong enough to go through this and not and see the road. Like, a lot of people quit or get discouraged when they get out of prison or feel like they can't do anything. You're saying
it's easy though. It's easy for that to happen because so many people. My PO was from hell. Yeah. I had to PO from hell. You know, I mean, when they look at certain people's jackets, you know, they give them certain people. Oh, this guy here, we're gonna need you to handle this guy because they say I'm slick. That's what, you know. Oh, you're slick. Yeah.
I know,
but they wasn't saying it like that though. They wasn't saying it like that. It wasn't no love in it. So it's hard getting out. And then when I got out, my mom was losing her house. We went foreclosure.
That's hard.
I opened the door and it was the marshals. So you got 30 minutes to get everything you can.
That's hard.
That's hard. And this is I'm only out like 7 months, 6 months, fresh out of prison. Yeah. And now my mom is going to be homeless, and not only my mom but myself too.
You know what? what things? I mean, look. Let me ask you this: did you watch the fight last weekend with Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr.?
Absolutely. Only thing I didn't like about the fight is I wasn't there. Mike didn't call and invite me there, man. I said, come on, Mike. Mike, you're supposed to have me with you.
Yeah, I know you and Mike are close, is what I'm seeing here. And, I just want people to understand that where you've been and things that you've overcome, to be so positive, to be smiling. I'm looking behind you. What is that behind you? You got this sign behind you that talks about Freeway Millionaires Club, right?
Yep. Economics, money management, financial literacy and planning, budgeting, impact of interest, credit. We go through the whole thing. I try to teach people the whole thing because I use all that. I studied credit as well when I was in prison.
And look, you've taken this to the next level. You didn't turn in your chips and blame everybody. You owned your shit, and now you're.
Oh no, it was my fault. I don't even blame my informant. I did that to myself. My informant, he didn't make me do what I did. He gave me the opportunity. I mean, he could have coerced me a little bit. Could have been some coercion in there, and I might have been a little predisposed, because I was a drug dealer before. But at the end of the day, I could have said no. I could have easily either wrote on it or write on a piece of paper. No.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you this: for all the young, hungry grinders out there listening today, doing illegal business, what would your 3 keys of wisdom be to keep them in the straight path during these difficult times today? What would 3 keys you would tell them to do? What that you've learned? What are 3 things?
Well, first of all, you got to have reason. Your reason has to be important. My reason now to not sell drugs is important to me. And that is that I don't want to hurt people.
Yeah.
See, when I first started selling cocaine, it was a different look. Yeah. And look and perception means a lot. And also, we're talking about a young, impressionable mind. We're talking about a 19-year-old kid. Because really at 19, you're still a kid. You might think you know everything. But my 8-year-old could tell me, she thinks she's like 10 times smarter than I am. But when you're a 19-year-old kid, you think you know it all. Yeah. But you really don't. You haven't saw that much. So when I started selling drugs, I thought that I was assisting people in the party life. Because most of the time people who came and bought from me, it was a guy and his girl, and they was going to the club, and they was going to be blowing, and they were driving a Cadillac, and they had on the suit, and it was just like, oh, I want some of that.
Yeah.
So
you thought you were just contributing to the party. Because you're young, you don't understand the long-term impact. So your first one was reason. What would your second tip be? My
second tip is you got to be a critical thinker. You got to be able to look at a situation and break it down like a scientist. Take it and analyze it and figure out what is the best way for you. Yeah. How is this going to benefit first yourself, then your loved ones, and then your community? Now I did some critical thinking myself, even when I got into the drug business, because when I was sitting in prison, I thought about it. I said, well, you know what? I thought about what it would be like to be a robber. And you was like, oh, no, I can't put no gun in nobody's face. You didn't have the appetite for that. Because these are the things that the guys in my neighborhood were talking about. See, when I was in prison, I said, if they gave me a test on criminology in the hood, I probably would have got an A+. Because in my neighborhood, everybody taught criminology. Right. They could teach you how to rob a bank. They could teach you how to steal a car. They could teach you how to sell drugs. But now, if you want somebody to teach you how to do real estate, nobody owns a house. Right. Who could teach me how, like when I built my motel, I was going all around. Nobody could teach me how to build a motel. Nobody could teach me how to own a gas station. Yeah. So it was so much easy for you to learn how to sell drugs, steal a car. This is rapid in our community. So no wonder the kids do it. because it's so easy for them.
I agree. I agree. And education's a problem in this country by far. Right?
For
We talked about
everybody.
it earlier. For everybody. And we talked about it earlier, how some of the teachers just feel bad. I'm a big believer. I say it all the time. If we paid, and I want to get to your third point, because right now you got reason and you got critical thinking. But if we paid our teachers like we pay lawyers and doctors, and we paid our policemen like we pay teachers and lawyers and doctors and firemen, and we required higher education for that, and they got $100,000 a year plus, we would have the best people teaching our youth, protecting our families. Period.
And
But
those are
don't.
and that's the most important thing that we got.
I know. Instead, being a cop is like, oh, you couldn't do this, so now you're going to be a cop. And you used to be an asshole in high school and get picked on, and now you want to bully people. And that's not all cops. I'm not saying that, but a lot of them have that mentality. And why? Because
Absolutely.
because the pay is shit for most of them, and it's just whoever. It's the same thing with our military, our enlisted military. It's like, well, you failed in life, you should join the military. We have this mindset in our country that is really holding us back. And it really starts with teachers and cops and firemen and ambulance and military. Like if you put the requirements higher and treated it like an attorney or a doctor, game changer for all our kids in all our cities. That's what I truly believe. I say that every time.
No, I agree with you. I can agree with you on that.
Because that would change everything. That's what's important. We're never going to doctors like, that person's mean or racist or doing this. Why? Because usually it's a higher educated person who understands life. But you get, and I'm not picking on cops because I got a lot of cop friends. I'm not saying all cops are bad. But I've been pulled over and harassed from white, black, Hispanic cops all the time that just they're bullies because they got their ass kicked in high school. And I'm like, dude, why are you taking this out on me because you got some power now? And that's the problem with police. You got the same problem with teachers. I know great people that would have been the best teachers in the planet, but they couldn't put food on their table with the shitty pay, so they went and did other things. And it's like, our youth is missing out. Our kids, our inner cities, our
we pay
suburbs
more. We pay more to guys who sit on the bench of basketball and football teams.
Isn't that bullshit? We could get rid of our United States Post Office and keep the private shipping places, and all of a sudden give a higher tier of pay of the teachers and cops day one with higher credentials. That's just my opinion, but I'm not in politics right now, so we'll leave it at that. Now, the third reason. What is the third thing you would give? You had reason and you had critical thinking. What's a third tip you can give a young buck out there grinding and looking to better himself?
I'm gonna give you 2 words: dedication and sacrifice. You have to be able to sacrifice today for tomorrow, and a lot of times. I tell my people, when people come and work for me, and I tell them, because I ain't making the kind of money where I can pay big salaries, and I want bright people, and I tell them, I say something like this here: is it better for you to make $3,000 a month right now, or would it be better in 4 years if you had $400,000? And what I found out is with most people, they cannot not take that $3,000 a month. They will take $3,000 a month and bypass the 400,000 because they can't go without. They don't have enough dedication to say, you know what, I'm gonna work this job right here, and I'm not gonna get any pay.
Yeah.
For 3 years, but I'm gonna go work at night at the restaurant, wait on tables, and wash cars and sweep floors to pay the rent, keep me afloat, until my investments pan out. I call it sweat equity. Where you got to do a little sweat when you ain't got nothing. All you got is some sweat.
I know all about sweat equity, baby. I'm catching what you're throwing, Ricky. I'm catching what you're throwing. I love that, and I love you said dedication and sacrifices. You're always sacrificing something to better yourself, and if you chase money, you could fail. But if you chase success and what fills you up in your heart, that's a game changer. So let's do this. How can people find out about your business, your book one more time before we wrap out?
They can follow me at Freeway Ricky on Instagram and Freeway Ricky Ross on Facebook. Also, I'm building a new website. It's called Freeway Enterprise. I'm going to have all my new T-shirts and books and everything. I have a new book out as well. It's sold out right now, 21 Keys to Success. It's about my first 6 months out of prison. Yes. Well,
Send me a book signed, man. I better stack that up. Have it
if you will, tell my assistant to do that.
I will.
I'll do that
I'll
for you.
email. Yeah,
Because trust me, I won't remember. Right now, I got like 20 phone calls on call, and as soon as I get on that phone, I'll forget all about I know you.
Hey, you better remember my ass, Ricky.
Not on
face you can't forget, baby.
Not on purpose. Not with the pimp shirt. How could I forget that pimp shirt?
That's right.
How could I forget that pimp shirt?
Or the watch, right? Or the watch.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
Little swag there.
Yeah,
hey,
go
ahead.
But I be having so many phone calls and you know just doing so much that you know you just start running into the next and the next and the next, and you know we just go on and on and on, and then you loving it too. You know, it's like I'm having, you know, Will Chamberlain only scored 100 points one time. It's like I score 100 points every night I go on the court.
I love that. Hey, you know what else I tell people all the time? Every day's a playoff game. We didn't win shit. We're not done. We're not done. Every day is a playoff game, right?
Absolutely. Well, you know, I look at life life is the most important game that we could play. I know some people, they think the Super Bowl and the NBA championship and National Baseball League championships are the best one, but to me, my life is the most important game that's out right now. So, and I suggest that everybody should look at their life the same way, because your life is the most important to yourself. It should be. Maybe it's not. You know, maybe you give all your power to somebody else, and we do that. A lot of us give our power away. Yeah. But that's just some of my dumb thinking. If you get a chance, make sure you read that article too. I'm
going to.
Make sure you read that LA Magazine article, and then we do this again. I guarantee you, once you read that article, you're gonna have a different perspective.
Absolutely. And you know what? We're going to wrap up here. Underdogs, you heard it from the legend himself. No matter what obstacles are in front of you, you can't give up. There's no elevator to success. You have to take the stairs step by step. Don't worry if you got setbacks. There's no easy road to victory. He had it all, lost it all. Now he's helping others bridge the gap to success. The real Rick Ross is not a rapper, guys. This is Ricky Ross right here. Thanks for joining us today, Freeway.
Thank you.
I appreciate you connecting and sharing all your stories with us. You be blessed, my man. Bam! And that concludes another episode here on True Underdog. If you're interested in hearing more, make sure you subscribe at iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or the YouTube channel. You can always visit TrueUnderdog.com. Subscribe to all of them. Make sure you check out our newest episodes coming out on Mondays and Thursdays. True Underdog, baby. Bam!